That's the name of our podcast.
Which get one perspective. God bless.
Perspective.
It's like which Jenay are we about to do?
Yeah, I know, right?
The one that's like, shut up and let me do this, or hey guys, I don't know how to do this.
I don't know how to talk into a mic.
Oh, it could go either way. Okay.
You can just start. You don't need to clap again. Just ready to go.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Day One Perspective. We've been gone for a minute. Sorry about it, but we're back into it today, talking about nationals. Jared and I are going to do a little AAR, breaking down the stages one by one.
Is that it?
I don't know what to say, man. Can we restart that?
We're breaking it down.
Yeah,
We're
not.
just going to break down the stages one by one, go through it, and then like talk about the weekend overall.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can just cut that out then.
Yeah,
Thanks.
we're just gonna let it fly.
We're gonna let that fly. We're gonna clip that out.
We're just gonna let that one fly.
We should preface too with we were in totally different orders this past weekend. So usually with nationals, elites are with elites. So in the past, like we've been heats that are pretty close, right? So we were running the stages in the same order. Whereas this past weekend, or whenever nationals was at this point, the elite females were squatted with like men's 40 plus. So we were heat number like 30.
Yeah.
And y'all were heat number 1 through 8. So you ran them in order as written, and we ran them in a totally different order.
Which I do wonder why it was like that.
I don't know.
But
I was bummed that I didn't get to watch the elites because it's beneficial, and also a lot of y'all are friends, so I like to watch y'all. But I'm saying that because the stimulus of each workout as we experience it might be slightly different, given that the different orders, the way they compile against each other. So we'll just preface with that. But all of us started out our PR on Friday with, you started with long range.
Yeah.
I was in a different order, but we'll talk about them in your order.
Yeah, we'll just talk about them in the order that
because that's as they're written anyways.
Because that's the order they're written. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So stage one was the marathon targets / long range. So I can't remember the distances exactly, but it was what 270 or 200.
Jenay, do you still have this?
Yep, I do.
It's like 215, 270, 370, 470, 570 for the steel. And then there was a mover at each bank of steel.
Yep, besides the second one.
Yeah.
So like the furthest one being 570 for the mover.
Yeah. So anyway, let's I think you beat me on that stage, actually.
Let's go.
I think so.
I got lucky.
I shot horrible on that stage.
I also felt like I shot horrible. We had prepped a lot for that, and I was feeling so confident about my data and how I'd been doing in long range training. And then I got on the clock and none of it felt relevant.
Yeah.
It felt like everything was a lot different than we had practiced it. And I know that we've talked about it before, but RPR is pretty high difficulty for long range. I always like to imagine it like when you play a video game and you have different fields of play that you get to choose, you know, based on the difficulty, easy to hard. And like, that's like the hard one. So
it's I mean, that's our home range for long range. I mean, that's where you and I shoot. Whenever we go shoot long range, that's where we shoot. And like somebody that doesn't shoot there all the time, I wouldn't say we shoot there all the time. We shoot there. We shot there a couple of times, 3 or 4 times probably leading up to the match. And then throughout the year, we might go out there 3 or 4
just to run
times.
data usually throughout the year. It's
usually just to confirm where the bullets are hitting at longer distances. But it's almost so if you haven't shot at, if that isn't your home range that you know really well, and I've been shooting matches at Reveille Peak for 6 years, 7 years, like 3-gun matches, and that's always a long range location right there. In that particular location, there's no such thing as a home field advantage because every single day that you go there, it is a completely different range. Like the only thing that you know is the distances. That's it.
Yeah.
Like there's 1, 2, 3. There's like 3 primary shooting locations along that where the long range stage was. Like you can go a little further down the hill from the fence, and there's another shooting location that they use sometimes that you can only see like the 470 and 570 targets from that location over there. So it's normally in 3-gun, there's normally like some shotgun shooting, and then you shoot a couple long range stuff at the end and like steal at like 80 yards. But all that to say, the general rule of thumb at Reveille Peak Ranch is if you're missing, aim further left.
Yeah.
Right? Because the lake is over there to the left, and the wind is coming through that valley much stronger than what you can feel and perceive from the shooting location. And if you're missing, aim further left. They have a long range course there. I think Sheepdog Defense or whatever has a long range course there, and there's a dry erase board in that building, and it's probably in Tim Kennedy's handwriting, but it says, when in doubt, aim further left. Like if you shoot out there, it add 30, 50, 60% to your hold if it's left or right. And when I went to go shoot it, I wasn't perceiving any wind. Like it felt dead, completely dead. And for me, shooting the stage, everything went really well until I got to 470. I was pulling very good shots, and then I just went into old habits, like aim further left. Started aiming further left, couldn't get hits on it. Then I pulled a shot, or I didn't pull the shot, but I, shot once and hit the base of the marathon mover, and I saw it, and it was like 2.5 feet left of where I was aiming, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, my gun's off and I'm way left. And from there, I think I had 10 seconds left and I hit 2 targets from there. But there was a right to left wind. And I think in 10 years of shooting, 6, 8, 10 years of shooting out there, I think I've shot out there with a right to left wind maybe twice. And so it was really like a home field disadvantage, because like nobody could have convinced me or told me that I was going to be aiming right of those targets that day. And because even when you feel right to left wind, you still aim left. Yeah. Like, because it's so different. It's so different across the valley. And so anyway, that's kind of how the stage went for me. But shooting position was solid. My gun was shooting really well. Like,
what did you think about like the size of the targets and how they were presented and all of that?
Let Jenay say first.
I didn't enjoy that they had the orange backers on the front few of them, because you couldn't read splash or anything like that, which sucks for the shooter, easier for the people running the match, but probably shouldn't be necessary for the people running the match, in my opinion. And that was already a pretty hard difficulty stage, so why would you not favor the shooter on the difficulty level there? Because it's already difficult enough, right? Like, let us just see our splash, please. Thanks. But it was fun. I liked the difficulty of it. I wasn't where my skills were at. I didn't execute in the way I wanted to personally. Like, we had worked really hard on it, but like you said, it was totally different wind wise, and I'm working a lot on reading wind, but like, I didn't make the right call in that moment. And size wise, it felt like the furthest one was pretty small. The mover was like impossible for me. There's no way. Like, it would have been luck if I hit the furthest mover.
Well, the movers were what, 12 to 15 inches in width when they're broadside? Or profile view.
So I liked the steel that was in it, but for me, the movers were almost irrelevant, because the difficulty of the wind and just hitting the steel as is was like enough that I didn't even have time to really assess the situation with the further movers.
The overall with the stage, like the steel part of the stage was awesome. The 570 steel was small, but it's hittable. Like we were in a prone, stable condition. Just to go off, because you probably don't know this, but the corrugated backer is really for in 3-gun they use it because there's a limited division that I used to shoot. That's the division I used to shoot a lot. I started in open, then I would move to limited, but it's so that the limited shooters with 1X can see the targets or like know where they're at, because
sometimes at 300 or 400 yards, it's hard to pick them up.
Yeah.
Do you think that they use that for that same reason in our sport?
I think that the ones that had backers, because not all of them had backers.
The first three.
Did.
Mm-hmm.
They were used in a match 2 weeks before.
So they just left them.
And I think it was just left up from there. But it does, and it's hard because if you barely miss steel, you shoot through that corrugated stuff, and then the splash is behind the corrugate and you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it hard. But it's really there because kind of the general consensus, at least in Texas, because we're like historically have long range, heavy 3-gun matches, is you use the corrugated and then nobody paints targets. So you can see the target against a corrugated background. And then everybody has the same presentation because they're not painting targets between squads and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of like if I was going to break it down and could critique the stage, it was really 4 people of everybody shot it or finished the stage. Meg was one of them. I don't know who the other 3. And to be honest with you, I didn't even look.
I didn't look who the other 3 were.
I know what my score was, but I couldn't tell you if one of the guys in the elite finished it or not. I don't know. But
I think Tim
finished it.
Tim finished it.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. He did shoot it. Zach got close, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I know he like went 1 for 1 or something on the steel.
Oh wow, job Zach.
Which is funny because we sighted in the gun the day before.
Oh, and he was like, "Should I move it?"
And he was shooting. He was hitting like an inch and a half right. And I just looked down and said, "Hey, look, man. If your gun is shooting really consistent like that, I wouldn't touch anything. Like changing something the day before, if that's where your gun's settling in, just know you're hitting like an inch and a half right at 100 and just leave it." And it just so happened there was a right to left wind.
So heck yeah.
Right he pushed it center,
dead center.
He had probably forgot about it. So he was at 570, he was artificially aiming probably 10, 12 inches right.
Yeah.
And anyway, he was smacking steel. He loved it. It was awesome. It's cool to see friends do really well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then Tim's been putting in a ton of work long range, so it's cool that he did. He shoots for JP, and I've never been quiet about it. Like JP has the best stuff. So not sponsored hashtag.
I'm looking if
every gun that I've used since I started competing has JP components inside of it.
Yeah.
And so does Jenay's. But
but the difficulty was really hard. If only 4 out of 200.
Yeah, and the thing about it is in the field. So you'd look at that and you'd say like, "Oh, tactical games people suck at shooting long range," right? So if you're one of those people that's thinking that, and you've shot the Texas 3-gun championship, you can go look at the practice scores and you can see what I did to you with a 1X scope. I don't suck at long range. And the like Joey Roush, he's good at 3-gun.
Yeah,
he's very respectable long range shooter. I know that there's maybe 2 or 3 of the Masters group that are good long range shooters in 3-gun. So like the people that can finish those stages,
we're there.
Yeah. And if they're not finishing the stages, then you got to look at the stage.
Yep.
Right. And the way I looked at the stage going into it, I probably didn't respect it enough just because I was like, I'm going to do fine. I'm like, whatever. But the way I was looking at it for other people that I was helping was kind of nobody's going to finish this stage because a 12 to 15 inch wide target at 570 yards that's moving and bouncing on rocks is completely luck. So this stage has turned into in the way that if you didn't compete, so in 3-gun and most other matches, you can leave a target. You can shoot at it, you can engage it, and then leave it and not hit it. They were making us go to the par time. So if you didn't hit all the targets, you parred out.
Right.
Like you hit the maximum time for the stage. So what that did is everybody got the maximum time. So really it almost turned into a point stage because it was just like, which ones did you not hit? What are you getting penalties for?
How many penalties did you get?
And I haven't looked at the scores, but if you go look at the scores, you'll probably see a lot of people at the same percentage markers because but you're gonna have to click within the divisions,
right?
Because if you're in a division like Meg's division where she finished, but you're gonna see tiers with people that timed out and left like 1 target, and then people that timed out and left 2 targets, people that timed out and left 3. Like they're all gonna be the same percentages of that. So it really just turned into how many targets did you hit. So I don't necessarily love stages where, if you're a really good long range shooter, everybody's going to have their bad day. I had my bad day. There's other people there that had their bad day. Kurt didn't do well. He's very good at long range.
Yep.
I don't like stages where it's where luck is a factor and repeatability is a problem. So like those targets aren't going to bounce the same way for everybody. And I also don't like having targets in there where you can pull a perfect shot and miss.
Yep.
So if you pull a perfect shot on the 575 or 475, whatever, and that thing just hits a rock when you're pulling the trigger and bounces the wrong way, you're going to miss. And I don't like that. But I do like having the movers there. I just think that somewhere around 350 should have been the max distance for those movers. Because then you might get unlucky, with 1 or 2 shots, but they're close enough to where you can shoot pretty fast. So if it bounces when you shoot, you can just pull another shot real quick and you're good. And there's still a large skill component in there. I really feel like the 475 and 575 was more of a luck.
Well, before we started recording, you said something about the 575 target that if you tried to lead it with air time of the bullet path or bullet flight, that it was already going to stop and change directions on you.
There was only about a 2 or 3 foot section where moving left to right, to where if you let it enough and shot, you would hit it before it stopped. So really you just had to trap that one at one of the edges when it was stopped. And actually I don't know how long they were stopped for, but you probably should pull the trigger as it's arriving. So it's stopping when your bullet's getting there.
Right.
So anyway, I mean, what do you do from a match director's perspective? Like, it was a cool thing to have in there, but it's also probably a learning opportunity that, like we had those movers at Mammoth twice. They were in sand, so they're not bouncing. They're moving very smoothly and stuff. And I feel like it was more repeatable.
Were those going back and forth as well, or were those just in one direction?
They were going back and forth, but it was the distance that they were moving was much further.
Got it.
So they would go like 30, 40 yards in one direction, stop, and then turn around.
Like 6 yards.
Yeah. These weren't moving very far before they stopped and turned around. And I think they slowed them down.
They did. After the men's elite, they slowed them down to 1.7 miles per hour.
Okay.
It was not very
1.8. I don't remember.
Yeah. And they were moving.
They said it was an
significantly slower
average
than y'all.
walk. They said it was an average walk.
So I think for us, I remember Gil. I watched Gil's AAR with, who did he do it with? I forgot who else was in that podcast. It was Gil, maybe Gil and Nick Palacios.
Yeah, I think it was Nick P.
I didn't watch Nick and Nick's deal yet, but I watched Gil and Nick Palacios, and I think he said it was like 3.7 miles an hour, something like that.
They significantly lowered it for us then.
Yeah.
A lot.
They were at a light jog with you guys.
So it's an average person walks like 3 miles an hour. Yeah. So it was like a little faster than a regular walk. So anyway, that stage, I thought it was a really good setup. I think they could have done without the 2 movers, the last 2 movers, stick them some like in front of that tree at 3.7, like put it at like 320 in front of that tree.
You think that would allow more people to finish?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like the way I shot this, that also changed the way I shot the stage.
Got it.
So I shot the steel. And then once I, couldn't figure out the last 2 steel, I came back and shot the movers. But I think like the best way to shoot the stage would have been steel mover, steel mover, steel mover, steel, steel, and then they'll leave the last 2 movers for last.
I also think scoring on the movers was, did you get partial credit for hitting it once, or was it still failure to engage if you only hit it once?
If you hit it once, you didn't get the failure to engage.
Okay.
And if you hit it twice, you got the hit.
Got it. But if you hit it just once, you just got an FTN. Failure to neutralize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was kind of confused that week on how they were scoring it because some people said even if you hit it once, it was still like you either had to neutralize it or it was a FTE.
The difference was if I took shots at the mover but never hit it, it was still a failure to engage.
Got it. Because
Which in the if
I
with a
remember hearing
steel,
say they couldn't prove that you shot
right?
it.
Which I was like, that's bullshit. Because how do you prove that I'm shooting at a steel target when you give me a failure to neutralize on that versus a failure engage?
Right.
It's like, did you shoot enough shots, pretty much, and likely pointing in that steel's direction, and then I get the benefit of the doubt that I sent around at it, right?
It's probably just the way that they rewarded hitting it once.
I see.
You know, like you got an FTE if you didn't hit it. If you hit it once, you didn't get the FTE, but you got an FTN.
Yeah.
Got it.
And if you hit it twice,
you neutralized it.
You neutralized it. So no penalties.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a way to reward one hit.
Yeah.
Instead
I wasn't sure how it was scored. I was kind of more of a general question. I wasn't sure.
So, which I mean, that it is kind of like a creative way to use the scoring to reward one hit.
Yeah,
so
I don't have a better way to do it. It makes sense. I just don't like that it's like it's called the same thing.
Well, unless you made it
know?
a point stage, and then you got 2 points for neutralizing it, and 1 point for hitting it.
Yeah, which that's essentially what they're doing. Just they're.
Do you think? Oh, here's a question. Do you think if they had flopped it around and made it a point stage instead of like you had 2 minutes to get all the points you could, do you think they would have changed the outcome of the stage?
You could have stayed at the front ones.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that points thing because then you'll have people that like I never would have taken a shot at anything over 300 and whatever. I just would have stayed in that zone and kept shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, so yeah, that's like overall thought it was a really good stage. I thought it was a good stage. They could have done without the last two movers. I think that those should have been probably placed somewhere else in the, inside 350, somewhere in there. And there was places out there to put them. But live and learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I mean, the people that shot it best got the best scores.
Mm-hmm.
So, at the end of the day, like you got to kind of adapt and overcome the stage too. So, the scoring was fair, and the people that shot best got the best scores.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
Run was next. Ain't really that much to say about it, honestly.
For the run, for the guys, first loop was 20 pounds. Second loop was 40. Third loop was 60. For the girls, it was 20, 40, 40.
Yep. Yeah. So rude. Each lap is 2 miles, so it was 6 miles total. Yeah. Had a big uphill on the way out and then rather downhill on the way back.
Which Lauren was asking me before, Khalil, because they said the top time from 2 years ago was 51. It was Kempson, 51. But we ran it different.
Mm-hmm.
And to the life of me, I do not think we had 60 pounds in our bag. Did we start with 20 pounds and add 10-pound bags? I feel like we finished with 40 pounds.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think that we started with a 20-pound bag and then we added 10-pound bags along the way.
We added there were the white burlap sacks, the ones you would use for flooding.
Yeah.
I want to say that's right, that the men started with 20 and then added 2 10s, but I think the women also started with 20 and added 2 10s.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
I think the women did the exact same run as the men did.
But it was 20 pounds.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think it was 20 pounds, 30 pounds, 40 pounds.
Correct.
I don't think it was 20, 40, 60.
I think it was 20, 30, 40.
But I think that the run 2 years ago was harder than this run was.
Yeah, we went further up.
Because where the bags were kept was further up that hill. And then right after you got your bags, the first 30, 40 yards was like straight up. Like straight up. 4-wheel drive. Straight up. And then
did this route go by the 700 and 1,000 yard range?
Almost.
So that's where ours a couple years ago went up by that and then turned right and then went out the gate.
So
instead of just turning right.
Like where you turn left and go up the hill, then we got the bags and then you went further up a hill and then you came like exited off the right of that 700
off
yard
a
range.
flat range. Yep.
We like cut that corner off of it.
Yeah.
And then also having the uphill at the very start of the loop made it so much easier. Because when we did it 2 years ago, that uphill was the very last part of the loop.
Yeah.
Like you ran basically downhill.
As soon as you got your bag and started, there was an uphill to start, but then you were at the top then. So then it was just downhill. And then by the time your heart rate was at about 160, because you just ran downhill for a mile and a half, then you had a big ass hill, and it was like,
and this year it was groomed very well.
Yeah,
like
it was.
2 years ago, you almost couldn't run it because of the big rocks and rutted out road and stuff like that. And this year it was like very groomed.
Yeah.
It was not the same. But anyway, like I felt, a run's a run. It was fine.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, it for whatever reason, I didn't feel as punished. I didn't feel as punished after the run. I ran the whole thing like terrible, but like when I started it, I was like, I'm not walking.
Yeah.
And it may have been slow, but I ran up all those stupid hills. But I think I forgot what I told Blair going into the road. I didn't tell you anything because I knew that you were going to do well anyway. But I think I told Blair.
I told her, don't keep up with Katie. Like, let Katie go.
Yeah.
Like,
I told Blair to, I think, take it easy on the first loop and try. But what I told her was try to have the same time on all 3 loops.
That's
so
smart.
like conserve the energy for the 60 pound, because if you could run with the 60 pound.
Well, we had 240s, but
but like
the last lap of 40.
If you could run the last
Blair
lap.
could have run with a 60 been fine. She's strong.
She could have done
Just
that.
keep him around. I got done whatever stage I did, and like I looked up and I saw E running by, and I was like, all right, E, good job. I was sitting there thinking, I was like, oh, I'm gonna sit on the tailgate because like Blair should be coming by in 5 or 10 minutes. I was like, I'll sit here until I see Blair come by, and because I was gonna run get something to drink, or I was gonna run do something real quick, but I decided to stay there. And then like 30 seconds later, here comes Blair, like
she booked it,
running her ass off, and I was like, damn. And then I started thinking this must not be their last lap, and but it was. I walked over there and she was on the ground, done. So. That was pretty cool. Like she's been training pretty hard with running, so she did really well. That was cool. But yeah, I told her just to try and have the same time all 3 loops, because that last loop I caught and passed probably 5 or 6 guys, just because I didn't go out real hot on the first 2 loops. So I still, percentage wise of Hepner, I think I did better than I've done in a long time. But then what's his name? That guy can freaking run. The guy that won it, I think he got 11th at the end of the weekend.
Is his name Nick?
Yeah, I think Nick. I think his last name is like, it starts with a D.
Yeah, Denninger.
Denninger. Yeah, he did really well. That's cool. But he's also, that dude can run, and he doesn't look strong, but he's strong. Like he picks up the bags.
Wasn't that the guy that passed Hepner on a run earlier in the year?
Yeah.
Hepner was
North Carolina.
he was nasal breathing.
It was
right?
Idaho.
Oh, okay.
In Idaho, he ran past, like, it was like a mile into the run.
Oh,
and he ran
about
past me like I was standing still. I was like, how has this guy been behind me for a mile?
Yeah, but he was like, Jacob made a joke that he was like nasal breathing and was just totally fine. And Jacob was like, I was huffing and puffing trying to win the run. And this dude just blew by me. He was like, where did he come from?
Hepner and Jake were like probably 400, 600 meters in front of me in Idaho. And they had like turned a corner. You could see forever. And they had turned a corner. And then this guy just, like, I could watch it, from a side view, him catch him and pass. And it was crazy. I don't know where he was the first mile, but
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Just sizing y'all up.
Stage 3 spinner. So anyway, it was a good run.
It's just a run.
Yeah. It wasn't as devastating as, at least for me. I don't know how it was for you.
I was fine. I mean,
it was all right.
It was fine.
Stage 3. Go ahead.
What is your stage 3? 2 gun?
The spinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at first look, it pretty much
Stage
seemed
3 is 2-gun stage.
2-gun stage, quote unquote 2-gun. At first look, it just seemed to be a can you shoot the spinner or not? It might be different for the males, given that most of your field can shoot the spinner and has proven that. So then it's more of like how fast can you shoot the spinner? For the female field, I would say that it was can you shoot the spinner or not was essentially the test, because there's, I think, like 8 paper for pistol, walking in a straight line, and then 1 stop plate, and then holster your pistol, get your rifle, go to this tank trap and shoot the rifle spinner. Maybe like 60 yards, 70 yards. Was it ish about that?
Yeah.
So that stage offered a lot of point value if you could execute your plan right away. And for me, I did a clean conservative run, which is all I wanted to do. And I wasted a lot of time getting into position. So my personal takeaway from that is to, like, I did all the shooting part great, but I forgot to think about the transition in between stuff personally. So I wasted like literally 10 or 12 seconds, like getting into position on the tank trap before I fired my first shot.
It's with a spinner though, since you have to shoot when the spinner is ready to get shot. You can't shoot when you're ready to shoot, when it's swinging. So it's worth it to take an extra second or two getting into good position, because you want to make sure you're in a good position when you start shooting. So.
Yeah, that's what I was focused on. I just think I did it a little to the extreme.
Yeah, I get that.
So for the female field, it ended up being mainly, for most of us, all of us can shoot the pistol, like you're all going to finish that. It's like,
yeah,
can you do the spinner or not?
Well, I think all of them did finish the spinner this year, right? Didn't everybody flip it?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Not that I know of.
I don't know.
oh, okay.
Most of them did?
Yeah, most of the
Great.
females flipped the spinner this year. Yeah.
Okay, well then as the sport is progressing, it becomes how fast can you do it, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
For women's elite.
the way I saw it was, you can only shoot paper so fast.
Yeah.
You're hosing paper. Then you drop your mag, you shoot the stop plate. The fastest way I feel like to shoot that stage, because of the distance from the tank trap to the end of the first shooting area, was pretty close. It's close enough to where you're going to arrive where you need to shoot before your gun's ready to start shooting. Because you have to unsling it, load the mag, charge the rifle, all that stuff. So for me, the fastest way that I saw to shoot the stage was to run to the middle of the shooting area while you're drawing your pistol, hose all the paper, drop the mag, shoot the stop plate, all standing pretty much still. Like, I kind of creeped along, but just because I hate shooting standing still. I maybe took 4 or 5 steps, slowly as I was shooting. And then the spinner, you can only shoot a spinner so fast, right? There's, and I know that. So there's basically 3 speeds that you can shoot a spinner. You can go 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, or sometimes it's like 2, 2, and then 1 to drive it over. Or you can go 3, 3. And since I did so spectacular on the long range stage, and that's normally where I make my money in the matches, I rolled the dice and the dice didn't land in my favor, and I ended up costing myself like 10 seconds on the spinner. But to me, if 90% of the people are going to go 2, 2, 2 to get it over, so the spinner is kind of a moot thing. If you know how to shoot a spinner, you're only going to be able to, gravity works the same speed for everybody. Right. So you're only going to be able to shoot the spinner so fast. You're only able to shoot that pistol paper so fast. So really the whole stage turned into the transition between the pistol and the shooting and getting into position. That was that stage. It's probably 20% of a real 2-gun stage. And anyway, that was what we had in front of us, and that's what you have to shoot for score. So, but I was personally hoping for more of a 2-gun stage than that. But basically shot 8 paper and a steel from one spot, and then ran to a tank trap 20 yards away and shot at the spinner. So that was that stage.
Got it.
Yeah.
Stage 4.
Sandbag, parallel, step over stage.
Okay.
Break your back stage.
My back is broken.
Everyone's saying it. So the stage was like the 6 rounds of 1 minute of work and then 1 minute of shoot, alternating between 1 round rifle and then 1 round pistol. So it's 3 rounds of each of those, and then a 3-minute work only on the fitness thing to finish out. 3 minutes of sandbag step overs. So the work was pick up a sandbag, step over the parallel thing to the other side, which was like maybe four steps to get to the other side. The bag touches the ground and then you come back over. So very monotonous work, a lot of hinging, just essentially endless deadlifts and stress carry the whole time you're under load for that minute. And you could either touch and go, tap the ground and go right back into your next one, or you could drop it all the way. So this one, in my opinion, was totally a know yourself strategy style workout, because you're gaining points on the fitness, and then your whatever your shooting sequence is, you know, all those count for points as well. So how much can I do in my work minute and still shoot in, you know, pretty accurately to get enough points where it's worth it to do as much fitness as you're doing. So for me, I know that the option was there to touch and go, but I knew that I couldn't hang on to that and still shoot really well and have some in the tank for the 3 minutes at the end. So I just kind of held back a little to start, and I definitely got beat overall in the fitness points, I think, but my shooting was there.
Yeah.
So that was the best strategy for me.
I liked it. I thought it was a good stage. I mean, I think that stress carries are just as big of a weakness for me as running is. So, you know, I didn't stress carry too much. I, you know, didn't do great on the fitness part of that. Looking at the weekend as a whole, we did quite a few stress carries. So I think that, like, looking at the weekend overall, it could have been an opportunity to say, you have to pick this bag up and get over this parallel, and not, I don't think that you had to stipulate that it needed to be a stress hold over it. You know, like if you wanted to pick it up to your shoulder, you maybe should have.
You would have shouldered it?
Yeah. My back, I don't know if it's left over from an injury I had or whatever, but my lower back blows up. And when it blows up, there is no amount of mental willpower that can overcome. Like, my body will not let me keep doing it. So, but I mean, it was a good stage. I liked it. The programming as the whole over the weekend, I think that, like, maybe picking up to your shoulder should have been an option, because we had the Husfeldstone stress carry at 165. Then we had
we had a lot of sandbag over stuff.
Yeah.
Like sandbag over in the chipper, sandbag over in the...
I want to say there was another stress carry somewhere. But maybe not. I don't know. But I feel like there was...
For sure had 2.
Yeah.
Day 1 and then the Husafeld and day...
Yeah.
Whatever stage that was on day 2.
But
or
anyway.
3, depending on where it landed. I think yours was different than
his.
It
was a really good stage. I mean,
Yeah, it was a good stage.
It's honestly, if you're picking it apart, it's kind of hard to pick that one apart.
Yeah.
I liked it. It was a good stage.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. Got nothing bad to say about it. It was a fun strategy one.
Yeah. That's I definitely, as it went on real quick after the first round, realized that I was going to be pushing harder on the rounds that I was going to shoot rifle, and take it a little bit easier on the rounds I was going to be shooting pistol.
Yeah.
Because it affected my pistol shooting for sure if I was pushing.
I felt like I was conservative on both personally.
Then you
Yeah.
get
And then
the
saved it
same
for the
number
end.
every time.
Yeah. I
8.
knew how many I wanted going in as an idea, but my first round, I knew I had to feel it out and just make a game time decision. So I stopped shy of the time cap, which, looking back, perhaps I could have gotten 2 more reps on the first round and it wouldn't have done me dirty for the rest of the workout. I could have probably afforded to do that. But overall, like, stopping a little shy of the work minute end and allowing myself the couple of seconds to transition and, like, calm down made my shooting a lot better. And I know that it made a difference, because the shooting was hard enough, at least for us, that it was worth it to get your hits on that.
Yeah.
Which I liked. That was good. That was good balance
I judged,
on a point stage like that.
Yeah. I judged Jose all weekend. Or I think there's one stage I did in a longer stage or whatever, but he freaking crushed that stage. That dude's fit.
He's so fit.
He's strong. And he can shoot. He's going to be a he's going to be a problem in the future for people trying to win. He, I mean, he crushed it.
That's
dude's
awesome.
fit. He's strong.
Yeah.
All right. That was stage 4.
Hold on. I'm going.
All right. So stage 5 is oof.
This was now Saturday.
Yeah. So it's stage 5 for us, but stage 1 for all the other divisions.
Correct.
I believe.
Yeah. And then this is now Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. Yeah.
Of nationals.
That was sandbag over and rope climbs.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that's probably one of the best program workouts that, if you're really big and strong, you're going to cruise on the bag. So to set up, like if you weren't there, the stage was 5 or 3.
4 rounds.
It was 4 rounds
Of 4 sandbag over.
4 sandbag over, and then
3 rope climbs.
rope climbs. And you could mix up, you just need to complete that many reps of each movement in each round. So you could break them up however you wanted. So you could do a couple of bag overs and a couple of rope climbs, whatever it was. So, I mean, I thought it was a really, really good program stage. The shooting was good. So a lot of times, which like me and you've made that mistake, Jake, where it's a physically really hard workout, but then the targets are too small. So like if you camp on the line and just do 3 rounds, you can
win the stage
and win. Because everybody else is trying to finish and they're too messed up to shoot real well. But the targets were I wouldn't say it was like a generous size, but they were definitely hittable when your heart rate is through the roof. And that wasn't really like a heart rate workout. It was just really hard, and you were shaking.
CNS wise,
yeah, like
agree.
CNS shakes were definitely happening. I think you and I did that stage completely opposite.
Totally different. I did it as my last stage on Saturday after we did some other sandbag over, stress carry. Like the body was, the tired had set in at that point. Versus you got to do it fresh. So did turn out a little bit different. Also for the girls, we had the 175 bag for the whole time, which was, I think, an appropriate step at nationals. Like it was a fair bag weight. All the girls can do it. It's just a question of how fast. Personally, looking at that, with those 2 high CNS output movements, I knew that would be my mountain for the weekend, meaning my hardest workout.
Well, and the bar was also
because the bar was high.
Oh yeah.
It was not at my neck, but it was at my
shoulders.
chest. Like I had to like fully back bend to get this bag over because it was tall. We did the same height bar.
I was able to watch your first round.
Yeah.
Because I had all weekend we were shooting at the same time on different stages. But I was able to watch your first round, and before I had to run off and go shoot whatever stage I was shooting. But the bar height was the same for the men and the women on that one.
It was high.
Yeah, most of the time it's a different
height.
But I did the rope climbs first, and so I did the 3 rope climbs.
Or 3.
So I went into it, and every round I did 3 rope climbs and then 4 bag overs. And I think you did the bags first and then the ropes.
Yeah. And at some point I knew that given the bag weight, I would probably have to game time decision some different options. With the 150, when we tested this in Utah, we had 1 less rope climb and we had the 150 bag, but it was the same shape because it was a 200 downloaded to 150. And in that workout, given I can definitely move that bag weight sequentially without big breaks, I just did all of the bags and then all the rope climbs. And then in this one, I game time knew that I would do at least a couple of bag overs first, but whenever I had to take a longer rest, that I was going to hit a rope climb, and like however it went down, I was going to be flexible mentally and not let that shake me. I was just going to get the work done. And I did end up just switching back and forth. So I can't even tell you what rep scheme I really did. I know that I always started with the bag.
Yeah.
And as the workout progressed, I did the rope climbs earlier.
Our first 2 sets, she did 2, 3, 2. And then round 3, she did 1 and hit a panic button, and then went straight to the rope, and then did 2, went back to the bag, did 2, I think. Yeah, did 2. So she had 1 left, and then she did her last rope climb, and then the bag over. She always finished with the bag over, so she was moving towards the firing line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just did it where if I was at the rope, I was rope climbing. I wasn't going to go over the yoke again or under the yoke again to get there.
Yeah.
Just if I was there, I'd get there. So that's definitely a strategy one where you have to know your strengths and weaknesses and be flexible mentally too.
I kind of figured that we were going to see that workout at nationals. So I'd done it at the gym a couple of times. I did it with I think I did it 4 and 4, and I did it with a 300-pound bag because I figured it would be 300 pounds. But I mean, the added intensity of competition, I mean, I still went to basically failure. Like the last rope climb that I did was probably the last rope climb that I had before I was going to have to take a break because I did everything virtually unbroken. Like just came off the rope, went back to the rope, off, just like down and up. And then the bags, I didn't really ever stand there and take a breath. Like I just stepped to the other side, put it over, step to the other side, put it over. Kyle Martin was next to me. He broke it up a little different. I couldn't really tell you how he broke it up. I just knew that he was going from the bag to the rope before he was done with the bag. He ended up pulling away from me at the end of the workout by 30, 40 seconds, something like that. But the rope climb, like the last rope climb I did the thing where I basically sat on my ankles for 3 or 4 seconds before the last pull. So like my grip was starting to head south, but it was I think it was really well programmed. I liked the workout. I think the weight was really good because it rewarded strong people because you could move it fast without having to take breaks. And then, but in the same breath, if you're too big and kind of too big in the bag is easy for you, the rope is like but then vice versa. If you're too small,
bag sucks.
The bag is going to suck.
You got to be balanced.
I think it was a very good workout for balanced and to see who is a good balanced individual. For sure. Definitely
my favorite event of the weekend.
Yeah.
I know personally I said it was like my mountain of the weekend and I got to conquer that. So meaning finishing it was definitely my goal. Yeah. And I did. So that was cool. But objectively outside of how I felt about it, I do think it was an awesome workout and I really enjoyed doing it.
Razzle Dazzle. So this is stage 6 and then 2 for all the other divisions.
Thought this was the very
aggregate
bold stage.
Yeah. So it's 100 points. So the reason why these are called aggregates is when we started, it was your aggregate score
across.
Basically, there was 2. There would be 2 aggregates, and they're each worth 50 points, and they added together. And then we would do like
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's why they're called an aggregate.
Yeah. And one of them would be a short physical, like a 30 to 90 second short physical effort. And then the other one would be a short shooting drill, essentially. And then those two, we didn't really add them together. It was each stage was worth 50 points. So the physical one was worth 50 points and the shooting one was worth 50 points. So
immensely across 2 days, it's 100 points.
Yeah.
50% of it comes from shooting, 50% of it comes from
so it's an aggregate because basically those 2 stages added together is 100 points.
Right.
Got it.
So this weekend, if they were to program it that way, it would have been probably the sled drag with 50 points and then the shooting drill 50 points.
Yep.
Yeah. So
both were worth 100.
Yeah. The shooting drill is kind of hard to explain. Like you just moved in a Z pattern, shot, reload, shot 2 to the head with the rifle, reload,
shoot 2 to the head.
2 to the head, reload, shoot 2 to the head, reload.
While moving
diagonally across or horizontally across. Then you move diagonally across, depending on if you're right or left-handed, which side you want to start on, and then shoot to the head or to the body, pistol, to the body, pistol going across, and then to the body from the last box.
Do we need to define what the body or the head is?
Yeah.
Did Blair tell you that she said it at our brief?
Oh yeah.
If you were there, you'll know. If you're not, it's totally it's all good.
Who was running it, Jay?
Yeah.
And he goes, "Does everyone know what the body is?" And Blair was like, "Well, the head is part of the body."
No, Blair raised her hand and she goes, "So is it true that the head is part of the body or not?" And he like closed his eyes and took a deep breath, and he was.
It
like,
was so
not
funny
today.
I
was
shot one to the head with my pistol, and earlier in the year, my feet were held to the fire of a stage brief, and it really cost me really bad. So I held some feet to the fire that weekend. On the stage brief was briefed, and I fully know and understand what Jay Christensen meant when he said it. But just because I have a long history of shooting action shooting matches doesn't mean that my knowledge should have to work against me because I know what somebody meant. Because everybody else that was there, I wouldn't say everybody else, it was Slade Walding is the one that walked up, like when I was scoring, he goes, "Hey, that's part of the body." And I looked and I was like, you know what, you're right. That is part of the body.
Yeah, Slade.
Yeah. And I asked a couple people, I was like, do you think headshot is part of the body? And they're like, oh yeah. And I was like, okay. I was like, if that's what everybody here is understanding, I better get credit for this.
Yeah. That's funny.
And because like I understood it, but just because, long story short, you shouldn't be penalized because you have a long history of knowing what people mean because of action. You've been in action shooting. You should be going by the same stage brief and the same understanding that everybody's going under. Yep. But anyway, I got my freaking hit back.
That's
sorry. Jay was cannon fodder in the middle of something else that was going on. But yeah, I mean, it's 100-point stage. I shot it. What did Jesse Tishauser used to say? Don't shoot like an asshole. And I shot it like an asshole, trying to get points. And for the third time this weekend, it backfired on me, and I didn't do real well on that stage. But it's one of the things. The stage is out in front of you, and you either execute it or you don't. And I would strongly suggest everybody shoots at 80% of your capabilities. Take your 85 to 90% score and live to see another day. I rolled the dice again, trying to hit a home run, and I was not hitting home runs that weekend. So I took my hit. You did really well though. Did you win that stage?
I don't know. Did I?
I think you did.
I think I did win that stage. I just shot it conservative, honestly.
Yeah.
On those shooting stages, based on like what I had done so far on the weekend and what I knew was left to come, points wise, I thought it was the wisest decision for me to just be conservative on that because my back wasn't against the wall where I had to really risk it for the biscuit to get extra points.
Yeah.
And with that in mind, it was a choice to just try to shoot it clean. So I really didn't move fast. I didn't do anything sexy. I just did what, like you said, conserve, like take my 100% and back it off and roll it, and just shoot it clean. And I'm glad I did because I had one rifle round that was like
on the perf,
nearly off the paper. Like, I was touching the perf, and I was like, okay, perfect. I went as fast as I could go.
Yeah.
Conservatively without a miss. And that's what I wanted. So I really didn't put too much pressure on myself in that way because I wasn't trying to do anything heroic. It was just get out there and execute a clean run.
That's what, I would say. I always tell you to shoot those stages at like 80% because it's like you can ruin your weekend. And I shot it at what I call a 50%, but it has nothing to do with effort. It's 50% of the time I'm going to hit it, and 50% of the time. That's how I shot the spinner, and that's how I shot.
I think on the 20-second, 25-second stage like that, a malfunction is your weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're at 100 points. If it was a 50-point stage, a little different. But with it being a 100-point stage, if someone has failure to feed or, something
I will say,
small,
I took apart my magazines and cleaned everything before that stage because I knew
she had oil flying out of her pistol because we were making sure it was not going to jam.
Usually my stuff's pretty
reliable. But anyway, there's not much left to say about that one. It was a good stage. Jay ran it really well. I'm glad that Jay was there running that stage because he did great on both the two guns and the aggregate.
Yeah.
He knows the game. If you don't know Jay, he's a very, very good 3-gunner. And I'm glad that he was in charge of those two stages. He did a really good job. All right.
What was your next one? Because I don't remember what the order is.
See,
I know we had
1 to America. It's
That's
That's
your-
the big tall one, right?
That's your throw stage,
7 for us, and then 3 for all other divisions.
Like the 3-parter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is, we throw the kettlebell bag over the, I don't think it was 12 feet. I think it was like
It was 11
feet.
11 feet.
They adjusted it down.
Throw it over the 11 foot. Then he did the under the parallel, over the box, under the parallel,
Mhm.
then over the parallel, over the box, over the parallel on the way back. And then shuttle jogs. I'm not calling them sprints, but shuttle jogs at the end of that.
So 3 different parts, essentially, just to clarify.
Yeah.
Part 1 was only sandbag throwovers
Yeah. So
And shooting.
and shooting.
I think programming for the men's elite was really good. My back blew up on that one because that's the stress carry. It was basically a stress carry with that bag
Mm-hmm.
in the middle part, and then I still probably had some gremlins left in my back from
The day prior.
and my back blew up to the point where I almost couldn't do the shuttle runs at the end. Like I was having to keep my torso completely vertical and like air squat down and touch the board at each side.
You were hurting.
I couldn't bend over at the waist by the end of that. But I've always, for whatever reason, been able to launch kettlebells. So the kettlebell toss, I think I got like 18 extra or something like that. I was able to do a little different. So like my back wasn't facing it when I was throwing. I was like
Side, like 45
sideways.
degree angle.
Yeah. So I could like throw it like this over. So it was like, if you're not watching this video, it was like on one side, the upright was to my right. And then on the other side, it was to my left. So it wasn't behind me.
Mhm.
And that way I could throw it much more accurately. And it was like dropping right on the other side instead of like going 10 feet past it, whatever. So that was really, a faster thing for me. That might have been when my back blew up, was I sent it on that because I knew that the parallel thing wasn't, it's hard to get all of this under that. So, which that's part of the program. It's good. Like I watched a short portion of you going under it. I was like, man, that looks like so much room. But like for me going under it, I was like, I'm not even the biggest guy like Zach and them.
Yeah.
It's hard getting under that thing.
Mhm.
So anyway, I thought it was a good stage. I think there was a kind of a lot of drama around the stage on the women's side leading up to it, because I think it was probably programmed in a way where maybe 3 of the women were going to be able to throw the bag over.
I think probably 3, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah. So programming wise, like I don't think any of the guys, some guys may have struggled, but like all the guys did it. I don't know if everybody finished, but I know everybody did it and was able to go like multiple shooting rounds. And there wasn't anybody that was like just standing there the whole time because they can't throw it over the thing. And that definitely, if they would have kept the weight at what it was originally programmed as, I think they're more than half, maybe 3/4 of the women's field, I don't know, may not have ever gotten a bag over and been able to shoot.
Correct. Well, there was a scaling option of throwing it over the 9-foot bar.
Of like,
but you had to do 5 to 1.
5 to 1. That's excessive.
Yeah, so it would have been, if you did finish the entire workout, it would have been 100 repetitions over the 9-foot bar versus 20 repetitions.
Think
over
about
the
what that would have
high
done to
bar.
your body. 100 repetitions of
and just like rep speed is like it's a 10-minute time cap,
Yeah. I mean,
100 versus 20.
I watched Meg in Idaho. She couldn't get it over, so she had to do the 5 to 1. And
yeah,
I don't know if she shot the 3rd out of 4.
She said that she only shot 2 rounds.
She only shot 2 rounds. Yeah, and she was struggling still to get that over. But they made the weight change. I think Carla, like, I don't know exactly how it all went, but I do know that like the men's tactical went through and they struggled pretty hard with it. And then because the men's tactical went through, and there's some fit dudes in men's tactical, like Cody Carr from our gym, very strong, explosive guy. He's in men's tactical, and I don't know, he probably did just fine in it. But it's not saying anything but negatively about the men's tactical. It's just like it's
a hard movement.
Yeah, there's some very fit guys in there, and then that movement is heavily favors men because it's an explosive movement, and height helps a lot.
Yep,
and pure size also helps a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so in the future, I think that if it's programmed, like, I don't think maybe the 35 pounds is the problem. I think it was the height that was probably more of the problem. So you think that if they would have left it at 35 pounds but move it to 9 feet for the women, they could have kept that same weight and it would have been possibly, yeah. I know that Jenay probably doesn't like that answer, but that's probably.
I mean, it's better than.
Yeah.
I think 35 over the tall bar is unreasonable for the females.
Yeah.
Period.
That's because.
So whether you move it lower or make it lighter.
We have that. We're in the gym right now, but like we have that thing that goes across.
Shrimp trawler.
Yeah. Well, the shrimp trawler, but then we also have that metal.
Thing
that goes across. And the day before, we had the kettlebell in the gym, and Nate Drum, who's 1 year out of elite, and still super. He could do elite if he wanted to.
Yes,
like
he can.
But he had surgery on his ankle and whatever. He's still Nate. He's still very powerful.
Right.
He's still very strong and explosive.
Right.
And he was having some trouble getting it over.
At the 35, not the 45.
At the 35.
Correct.
Yeah. At the 35 pound, he was having a little bit of trouble getting it over. Kind of technique and like aiming wise was more of the problem, but still, like, somebody that's strong and explosive should just be able to like
throw it through the roof.
Launch that freaking bag and not really care about all that other stuff. Meanwhile, me and Zach, because like I always joke with Zach that I'm like the 80% version of Zach. Like our proportions are about the same. I'm just like 20% smaller than him.
Yeah.
And we could launch that thing like I can dent the roof with it if I want. And the like throwing it over 15 foot or 18 foot probably wouldn't be a problem for me. So it's very dependent on your build, right, and how tall you are and your levers and stuff. So I think in the end they went to 20 pounds. Yeah. I think that was
over the 11.
It was a good move. It was a good audible, and I think it was still hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like
it created the stimulus that was obviously intended by what they had written.
Yeah.
And by moving it to 20, everybody was able to do it.
Yeah.
Not everybody was able to finish. So it still created the physical separation that you wanted to create.
Yeah.
And then that also didn't allow some girls to shoot the last round if they didn't finish. So it created the separation by doing the 20 pound that you were intending. It would have not created much separation other than for like 2 girls or 3 girls.
Yeah.
Had you done the heavier weight at the higher bar, because the rest of the field would have finished at the exact same spot.
Yeah. I mean, you would have had, if it was kept at the original weight, you would have had 2 or 3 women with scores in the 90 percentile. And then you would have had 3/4 of the field with under 40% score on that stage.
Yeah.
And like you can't have that kind of, like if it's something that's doable and that happens, sorry. But I think it was a good audible. They made a good call changing it. Carla did really well with that one. But yeah, I think that it's a good movement. A lot of bags broke in Idaho. A lot of the bags broke. I know a lot of the bags broke that weekend too. So I don't know if that's something that we're going to see again. But if it is programmed again, just like wall balls and CrossFit,
right?
There's different height,
right,
for the women to throw to. It's a different weight and a different height.
Both.
Yeah. So I think that's probably a change that needs to be made in the future. That the height is also different for the ladies. I wonder if Meg would have stayed, because Meg went to tactical. Because there was two events that she wasn't going to be able to do.
Correct.
And I wonder if she would have stayed in elite if that change was made before the weekend.
And she was of note. She was the only one that in the female field that got to test that alongside E, because
she had done it before.
Yeah, those two were the only one that have really done it at that height that came to nationals, right?
In Idaho, I think there's only 2 women in elite.
Yeah.
So it's her and E.
So I think that her perspective on seeing that come up in our program, she has lived that. and knows what that was going to turn out like.
Yeah.
So she can easily make the call on like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of us maybe didn't feel so bold to like, you know, drop divisions on it because we never experienced it in the same way that she had either.
But I know that she was worried about the 175-pound bag, and then she knew she wasn't going to be able to throw the kettlebell.
Correct.
So she dropped divisions. But I think that if it was just a worry about the 175-pound bag, I think she would have stayed in the elite. So I think she probably would have done really well in the elite, especially since she's the only one that finished the long range stage.
That's she would have
smashed us.
She would have smashed her on that stage. Yeah.
All right.
60% on that stage.
But yeah, I mean, I wonder if they vetted it with like what women vetted that.
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, that stage was that stage. Honestly though, at the end of the day, like with the audible that was called on the programming, it was a good stage.
It turned out,
I think with the audible that was called, it was a very good stage for both men and women.
Good job calling an audible. Good job. Okay.
Awesome.
Stage 8 biathlon.
This is kind of, we've done this sort of event before. We did it in Oregon, but we did it where you had to actually run a 400. It wasn't on a machine. And then if you missed, you had the inner loop. It was like it wasn't it was like 70 yards.
Okay.
It was going to take you about the same amount of time as it would for a 10-second miss.
Well, I know that we did this at, when I owned it, we did this at Triple C.
Yes.
But we did shuttle runs.
Well, Triple C. You didn't know it at Triple C.
We programmed it. Where did we program? No, ETTS.
We programmed it at ETTS and at TSA. We did shuttle runs at TSA. You had to pick up ammo and load ammo. She was at that match.
Yeah, but I think that was, you're talking about specific to when you miss, you got to immediately run the penalty.
Oh, well, that was
not
ETTS.
the shuttle run. Was
but it wasn't, you didn't have to do the penalty in between weapons. You just had to do the penalty
at the end of the shooting.
End of the shooting.
Correct.
And it was shuttle runs.
Yep.
And we tested this shuttle run to make sure it was a 10-second shuttle run. Correct. At like a fast jog pace. So you finished your shooting, you did your fast, like your 10-second, it was literally a 10-second shuttle run. Correct. So it was your 10-second penalty, but you're running for it. And then you went on your loop.
Correct.
To run. So
a slightly different format, but honestly, I thought the steel portion of it was cool. It's kind of hard. I mean, we've done the steel in the past, and there's goods and bads to that. But with it being so close, they painted it before every stage, which was, I mean, you could see all the hits on it. So I thought it was, I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little nervous about it before the weekend started because it was steel out there. And but I thought it was great.
Rodman got the steel penalty.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I think on two of his hits, he hit. So the way these targets are designed, there's a shepherd's hook that comes through a cutout in the steel. And if you hit that stem, like the shepherd's hook stem, the target doesn't react. And you have to know what you're looking at to know that it was a hit, because you either see the bullet hit the ground,
right?
You know, on either side, or like the jacket comes apart and you see just like dust come up from the ground. So you know it's a hit because it makes like a clank.
Right.
And it's not real loud. It's like clank.
Yeah.
And with a lot of other shooting going on, it's hard to tell that you hit it. And I think he caught that thing twice. Ooh. And so he had to pay with the assault bike penalty, which
same round or different rounds?
I don't know. I just know he told me it was twice. So I was worried about the stage because I'm not like a super awesome runner. And I knew that if I was going to have to pound out some assault bike calories and then run, I was going to be in trouble. And basically for the men's elite, from what I understand from the other divisions, if you missed, you're time capping.
Correct.
From the men's elite, I know that Nick Denninger, very good runner. So he missed once or twice. I just remember out on my peripheral seeing him on the bike. He still finished the stage, but he's a really good runner. I know that Kurt missed a couple times. I saw him on the assault bike, and then Kyle Martin, I think he missed once.
He said he missed on his last shot, I think.
Yeah.
He said it was like right at the end. He was perfect to the end.
and he was stable to finish. So I know at men's elite, it was still, but we can also, men's elite are by and large bigger and stronger, and the assault bike heavily favors big, strong people.
Yes.
So
does the runner technically.
Yeah. Like I can run disproportionately better on a runner than I can on the ground.
Yes.
Like as compared to other people, I can run on a runner much better. But of like smaller size, I can. So it's definitely a power thing, kind of. I liked the stage. I didn't miss, and I laid down, and I was like, crap, because right when I laid down, I realized that I used 20 round magazines all weekend. And it was
I remember you telling me this.
Yeah. And like I laid down, I was like, oh no. And because it's like I cannot miss, and I have 20 round magazines. So if you don't know, like now prone basically turns into like face planted into the ground, because you're a lot lower than you'd want to be
as you're trying to breathe between 400s
and mount up on the tank trap. And
so
that's a lot going on.
I was like mounted up at the very bottom of the tank trap.
Edge of the handguard, just tapping it.
It was on there. I had it on there, but it was like I was at the very bottom of the tank trap.
Oh yeah,
like, just completely sprawled on the ground. But it worked out. There were a couple of holes in that one, like on your last round with pistol. So you got 10-second penalty for each round left in your gun, right? But if let's say you're shooting your pistol, you get off the runner and you shoot your rifle, maybe don't have a miss, maybe have a miss, whatever. And then you get to your pistol, you got 15 seconds left and you just rip 10 rounds and you miss all 10 of them, right? Well, now you don't have any rounds left in your pistol. There was no penalty for a miss, because the penalty for a miss was assault bike calories, and there was no penalty for assault bike calories not completed. So there at the end, there was like a gap,
a loophole,
in there. So if you just like ripped off your last pistol rounds and finished, like
time counts,
time cap, like you hit the time cap, but you don't have to do your calories. So,
and there's no penalty for your rounds.
Yeah, and there's no penalty because you've shot all your rounds, and there's no penalty for a miss, and there's no penalty for assault bike calories not completed. So there is a little bit of a hole there. I don't know if it affected anybody or not, but we knew that going into it. Like, hey, look, if you're on your pistol and you run out of time, just rip them. And because the worst thing that's going to happen is you walk over to the assault bike and
you don't finish in time.
So you get time capped, but there's no penalty if you didn't do the 77, calories. And then the penalty for a miss was stiff. Like, because if you miss your rifle, well, now you gotta, clear your rifle, put it down. So finish shooting your rifle, put it down. You have to go over to the bike, get on the bike, do your 11 calories, then go back
transition
to the line,
there,
transition back, shoot pistol. Now you've been on the assault bike. You're not going to shoot your pistol well. Then you have to go back to the assault bike before you go. So anyway, the penalty was stiff. I think either accumulating all the calories and waiting till the end of the shooting iteration and then doing all of your calories at the end, and then probably not doing 11.
No, I was thinking like 7-4.
Like 7-4 for misses. Yeah. Like it should have been a 10-second effort to get the calories. Because if you miss one, you can spin that bike up pretty hard and basically ghost ride it to 10 or 11 calories. Yeah. But 22 is much different than 11.
Oh yeah.
And 33 is a whole different ball game than, like, it's disproportionately penalizing as you're going on. To the point where, like, if you missed 4 times, you're on that thing for 2 minutes. Like, you're easily on there for 2 minutes, probably 2 minutes, 15 seconds, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. So, and then you have to run afterwards. So I think that taking it down to like 5 or 6 calories for a miss for the guys and 3 or 4 calories, something like that would have been a little bit better.
With the way it played out, the targets were fairly generous, I do think, though.
Yeah.
Like, it was very possible to shoot it clean.
Yeah.
Which helped offset the drastic amount of calories for the miss relative to like what we normally see with 10 seconds of miss, right?
Yeah.
So at least the targets were generous with that.
Yeah. So, and then from what I understood in the other divisions, like you might have a minute 30 left for the time cap, and there was no partitioned parts to the run, scoreable parts of the run. It was either you completed it or you didn't. So like people just wouldn't get on the runner with a minute 30 left.
Blair stopped running. Blair had like 60 seconds left, and then the guy was like told her 60 seconds that she was getting back on. She just stopped.
Yeah.
So
like
because you're not rewarded for any of that.
Partitioning it into like 50 meter.
Yeah, 50 meters for
a point or whatever we were getting there. Yeah. Or like a penalty for each 50 meters not complete.
Right.
Something like that. So that way,
that's what I was saying. Like, 15 seconds per 50 meters not complete.
Something to penalize you for not doing it.
This is the first time we've used assault runners and assault bikes in competition. Specifically, the assault runner we're speaking to, though, because we're talking about the 50 meters.
Yeah.
At the end, having some like amount to that. So some kinks that we're working out.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I really liked the runner.
I love it. It was great.
I thought it was great. And it adds a lot of versatility that you don't have to find. Like you don't have to have the gun range doesn't have to provide that ground for you.
Yeah.
You can just do it right there.
And then it's, you don't just watch people disappear.
Right.
And then come back.
Yeah.
So I really like the runner. I don't know if we're going to see him again because I know they sold him at the end, but there's some local CrossFit gyms coming to pick him up.
Oh,
but,
really?
Yeah.
Good for them.
But I don't know if we're going to see it again. But
I don't know. I didn't know they were selling them.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was a cool event. I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I was nervous going into that one. Just because I knew if I missed, I was in trouble because I'm not an amazing runner. So
sure.
I was really focused in on the shooting for sure.
Yeah.
So I think if there was a running penalty for me missing, I would miss much less.
So, after you had told me that I could run at about 1,000 and still finish, for some reason I just felt hot. I got on the stage and I was like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And I wish I would have shot faster on it and had more time at the end because I was being super conservative and I was nervous that I was going to hit and have to pay the penalty, which maybe I would have missed if I'd went a little faster, but I felt like I was going so slow and conservative on it. And it's a confidence builder for me to like hit all of them. Maybe next time I can go just a little bit faster on that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I like the stage. There were some kinks in there that,
just scoring wise needed to be worked out, but it was good.
It was really good. You also have to be careful about making something complex because like we've seen what happens.
Yes.
The penalties are assessed incorrectly and it turns into
too many different.
Yeah.
Found that out the hard way, adding too many different kinds of penalties. And then they have to decipher what's what on the stage. And then if the athlete judge isn't in cue of what's going on, then the RO is not paying attention. And then that whole toss the stage.
Then, like the only way really to police that is competitors.
Yeah.
Basically saying like, hey, I got scored wrong on this. Like you gave me way too much credit or whatever. And there are some competitors that will be honest about it. And there are some competitors that will not be honest about it. So like, that's why you have to be careful about making something too cute, because then you're kind of relying on a competitor to dime themselves out.
If something was wrong and they got rewarded too much. Yeah.
Let's see. Stage 9, 5 for everybody else. This was the overhead carry, farmer's carry, right? Yeah.
Farmer's carry handle.
Yeah, overhead, farmer's carry. That was it. Those two. So what'd you think?
This was kind of a rough stage all around on the female side, to be honest, for my heat. Yeah.
I didn't hear about it.
So right before we went, the wind was really picking up and so we kind of saw this coming, but 2 of the targets in our heat flipped over, which caused a big scoring debacle for a while that they had to figure out. And like during the stage, I wasn't aware of this, but you told me this after, but like they were having to figure out like, what do you do when that happens? Like, do you just keep shooting? Like at what cadence? because that's a big deal. Like if you just like
Yeah.
rip the rounds, you know? So like they're having to process that. I was just having my own little shit show going on. I like the farmer's carry handles were for some reason really heavy for me. I was like really struggling with them, which is crazy because in training I was fine with it. But for whatever reason on that day, it was like my grip said nah. And I was struggling on that.
Was your hand hurt already?
No.
No.
So we did this before my hand was hurt. So this was purely I just sucked in that moment. I don't know. It wasn't there. So I was struggling on that. So I was really late to the firing line, and then my SRO went out.
Oh no.
So I drew my pistol and like went to shoot, and I was like, it's gone. I fired one round with the irons and it hit 6 inches high. And I was like, we are not doing that. So I cleared
Everything
it.
was like in this group.
Yeah.
And then there's one
round,
bullet
like,
like way up here. And it's like, yeah, that's not gonna work.
So for me, I'm like literally so late to the line. I'm struggling. And then my pistol is out. So I have to like clear it, go get the other one. I come back. I'm like way behind, you know, like girls are like starting to lap me. And I ended up finishing the workout and I stayed calm. Everything was fine. Did what I could. That's all you can do in that moment, right? Like you just keep working with what you've got. But I know for sure that stage ended and everyone looked around mentally was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Everyone was like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. And it was a mess a little bit. And for me personally, like all of our friends were there. That was when a lot of the Rattler people showed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just straight getting embarrassed in front of my community right now.
Right when Casey and Peyton standing right next to me during the entire stage.
Yeah, and
I thought she was good at this.
Yeah.
I think Jenay got 74% on that stage.
Yeah, I got absolutely slaughtered. I don't know. Sometimes, I mean, I feel like there's always one stage throughout the weekend, usually at least, that just goes to shit. And sometimes it's out of your control. Sometimes it's your training fell short, whatever it might be. In the moment, you know that you're in the thick of it and something's not going right.
Yeah.
And the only thing you can do is just keep working and do, keep what's going to keep moving you forward. And for me, like my pistol went out. What am I going to do? Like immediately make the decision, go get the other one, like keep moving forward. Right. Like, and I could move a few steps forward with the the farmer's carry bar. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to do it in 10-foot increments till I get there. Like, it doesn't matter what I think about it. Like, that's what I've got in the tank. So I'm just going to keep doing that and, keep my mentality good. Cause all my friends are watching me right now. It's like, how am I going to react to that moment? I did the best I could with that. And I'm proud of the fact that I stayed chill and like still shot well and finished the stage. But
you shot well enough to keep you from getting like a 50%
from a complete
score.
disaster, right? Because if I mentally would have been unhinged,
had you come unhinged
and dropped all my rounds, then like that would have been literally the weekend.
This would have been 2 years ago. You would have been in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
You used to just
freak out,
lose it.
Yeah. So I've come a long way in that. That's good. I was proud of that.
Part of that is what do we do in training when we're practicing? How many times, what do I always say? If something isn't going right and you
have to work through it.
You have to work through it and do not stop a drill because your gun malfunctioned.
Right.
Or do not stop a drill because
you miss.
Or you're not allowed to stop.
Or you miss 9 times. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You're going to hit it on the 10th
finish the drill and work through it. And that it just conditions you to like,
just keep
instead
going.
of emotionally responding, you just physically react. So like, this happened because this happened. Now this is what I have to go do. And instead of like emotionally coming apart, you just react to the situation in a way that it's going to get you through it.
Yep.
So like conditioning, that goes back to training and training. Like you're not going to get I didn't get a good grip on my pistol. I'm going to stop the drill and redo it. Like if you don't get a good grip on your pistol, perfect. That's what you want. Cause now I get to train with a bad grip and figure out how to do this. Or if sweat drops in on your glasses, perfect. Cause I didn't expect that to happen. Now I get to do a drill with something in my way and work my way through it.
Yep.
So anyway, that's
agreed.
For, I know that the targets came down. Now I remember because like Blair, her target came down. I think E's target came down. And used to, the rule was if the target came down, it's all hits. You just had to stay at a measured cadence the whole time. 100% honest, that's a coming over from 3-gun. Like if a target malfunctions in 3-gun or a target goes down in 3-gun, you shoot a shot at it and you keep going.
Yeah.
And that's the stage caused the problem, not you. So like the event needs to figure it out. And that's the way we always approach it, is that if your target goes down, it's all hits. And you just have to you have to shoot. And it has to stay at a measured cadence, the same cadence. You can't just go up and just rip rounds off, because you're already
at an advantage.
So now you have to shoot like boom, boom, boom. You can't just and run off, right? So to be honest, that's not the correct answer. Getting that advantage is not the correct answer. It's just what is the right answer. And a lot of times the right answer is different for the event dependent, right? Because if you take an average of your hits for that day, was the event that you just finished a giant gimme target and you hit it 100%?
Yes. Or
maybe this was the giant gimme target.
Yes.
And the last one was a tiny target that was a 50% target. So that's it. There is no good answer in that situation. And I don't know. The only answer is to uniformly apply the rule. So whatever is being done for one person is being done for everybody. And that's the only way that it stays fair, because like you can't ask somebody to reshoot a stage that's physical like that. So it's like, what do you do? And that puts the match personnel in a real crappy situation, because no matter what they do, somebody's going to feel screwed. Like if it goes to the benefit of the shooter, all the other competitors are like, what the hell? And if it goes to the benefit of the other competitors, because the shooter kind of gets screwed, well, the shooter's like, what the hell? So there's really no great answer to that. I mean, the only things that you could do, like thinking about it, and this just came to my head just now, but like having a single target downrange that has, an extra whatever, so that you can, if your target goes down, there's like a target Z to the side that you transition over and you're going to start shooting at this other target over here. Like maybe that's an option. I don't know. But then setting up a 6th target on every state, like that would suck too. So,
and then what happens if we had 2 girls in that heat with their targets down, so now they're both aiming at that, and then are they just getting an aggregate of the hits and misses on there?
Inevitably, like somebody's going to shoot that freaking target.
Yeah.
It's their target. And then what do you do? Because they still shot a target. But anyway, so it's, I don't know, maybe just you have a target outside on the left and a target outside on the right. So you have 2 targets in case somebody's target goes down. And then it also would take away the advantage of lane 1 and lane 5. Because lane 1 and 5 are the easiest ones to shoot from. Because you just find the furthest left target or the furthest right target and start shooting. So if you put a target A and a target B that's extreme left and extreme right, the lane 1 and lane 5 would have to make sure they're shooting at that correct target each time. So take away that advantage. But then it doesn't sound like a lot of work, but from a match building perspective,
it's a lot of work.
It's a pain in the ass to do that. So like maybe for nationals only.
Sure.
Just have that contingency there for nationals only. But it's not reasonable to expect that or to think that may happen in the future, because if there's 3 stages going on, that's 6 extra target stands, 6 extra targets, backer, paper. It's just, that'd be a huge pain.
I think one thing we had talked about doing in the past to help prevent that was switch out IPSTICs more often. As far as like on the sticks, just have them to just
But then you got different ROs at every match, and like that's just the ROs are good. They're really good ROs. And you're like, okay, we'll just train the ROs. Well, there is 1,000, like more than 100,000 scenarios that can present, and if you literally, it's not just like hey, sit down with your ROs and go over things for 30 minutes. You'd be there for 4 days going over every contingency that there is and then trying to train them for each thing. That's not reasonable. But I think in the end, everybody was pretty happy with like the way
the solution they provided was the most fair.
Obviously
the most fair way they could do it. So that's like you said, it sucks both ways.
Yeah. And then like communication during that's really important.
Mhm.
But we've also been on the other side of it. Like you and I have been running matches
Mhm.
and there's a million things going on. And like, this is the most important thing to these two people right now. But then there's also
right.
50 other things that are going on that are the most important thing for those 50 people.
Right.
And providing, if you were to provide a steady stream of communication to all those people, you would not have time to do anything else.
Correct.
So it's, keeping a steady stream of communication about it. Like the only thing that you can do or say is like, we can't make a decision about this right now because there's a lot of other stuff going on. We are going to make a decision on it. And by 8 p.m. tonight, we're going to have an answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically, basically just say, and if I haven't contacted you by 8 p.m., contact me.
Right.
Like, so that way, because everybody feels weird. Like, should I go talk to them? Should I not go talk to them? Am I talking to them too much? Did they forget about me? Like all this other stuff. So if you give by 8 p.m., this is going to be resolved. If you haven't heard from me by 8 p.m., call me.
Right.
Because now I've given you permission, but I've given you
a time frame.
Mm-hmm. And then I've also told you, if it's not done by this time, contact me.
Right.
Because we need to get this taken care of. So it gives them a time, like contact me at this time if it hasn't been resolved yet. And at 8 o'clock, you might call them and they might say, hey, we're still working on some other stuff, but we haven't forgot about you. Call me at 7 o'clock in the morning and we're going to have an answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. But anyway, that for the men, like the physical part of that stage, if it was supposed to be a strength stage, there's two things. If it was supposed to be a strength stage, the overhead carry was not proportional to the farmer's carry. Farmer's carry was pretty heavy. The overhead carry was
not
just a thing that we did. Like it wasn't heavy at all. I think most, if not all, the men picked it up, put it overhead, did the whole thing unbroken, didn't rest at the other side, just down and back, put down, moved on. So there could have been more weight there, but that's kind of picking it apart. For me, and like a lot of people may not look at stages this way, but it was 15 rifle. It was 15
or 12.
I think it was 15 12. I think it was 15 rifle,
12 pistol.
12 pistol. So it took me like 7 minutes and 10 seconds to do this stage, right? And there was 450 seconds out for pistol or for rifle misses, and then there was 360 seconds out for pistol misses. So like a 7 minute stage, what is that? 420 seconds of stage time.
Mm-hmm.
It was heavily
shooting.
Yes.
So if it was a physical, meant to be a heavy physical stage, there was way too much shooting. Because you could just camp on the line in 2 rounds and be fine. And it really turned it in, like the physical stuff just became something else that you did in between shooting rounds.
Right.
Because there was so much shooting, the other putting it down and resting for 10 seconds didn't hurt you.
Sure.
Like if you couldn't do it unbroken, it wasn't hurting you to put it down and pick it back up. So
yeah, good point.
That. But I mean, it was a good stay. I liked the stage, just like the portion of shooting to total time was off a little bit. Stage 10 sled pull. It was just that 90 seconds max distance sled pull. What do you think?
I hated it.
Oh, you mean somebody weighs 100 pounds and is 5 foot tall didn't like pulling a sled?
Yeah, shocker.
While carrying a 70-pound bag.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
We had the same weight as the tactical men again on that one. Love that for us.
I mean, to be fair, when Jared and I would program stuff, it would men's 40 plus and tactical men was the same as women's elite for the most part.
Ultimately,
for the most part.
Yeah.
There was some stuff that was different, but for the most part, they were.
To be honest with you, the sleds, when we were doing it, the sleds were heavier for the elite women than they were the tactical men.
Yeah. Right on. It was a little demoralizing to like watch the men go and then be like, all right, sweet, you're up next, same weight. And I was like, rock on, it's gonna go great. Love that for us. But it just was like, there's really no strategy involved. It's just kind of put your head down and work. And I think, as we mentioned earlier, that we had a different role of the events. Like the stimulus is different across the weekend. We had done a lot of heavy stuff, like legs were fine. Then we have that. And it was just, it felt like a lot of heavy things back to back in a row when we had done that stage. So I was like feeling a little bit of like a fuck me moment. Where I'm like, it sucks to be small today. You know,
they had a big gap between the farmer carry from like the previous event to the farmer carry overhead stage. But then it was a super quick turnaround because they were like at the end of that. So then they were at the very beginning of the sled pull. And so I think there was like one full heat of men's or two full heat of men's tactical or men's 40 plus that went right before the females. But they had just gone on the last like 3 heats of the other thing. So they were smashed. Like they were toast. And I think she had 25, 30 minutes between finishing that one and then starting the sled pull. And that was like a CNS event into a CNS event with no time to process food, no time to process water, like metabolically. So it's like, good luck, babe. You're going to do great.
I was not looking forward to it. And it turned out to be just as shitty as I thought it was going to be.
How far did you go?
To the wheelbarrow.
Oh, you're just down at the end.
Yeah. There's not enough time to turn it around. That's where all the girls kind of got clogged up there because we were all time capping near the wheelbarrow because that took a lot of time to turn around.
There was like 2 girls that like got it. Brittany Underwood?
Brittany got it.
And then her and Taylor DeStefano, maybe. I don't know. 2 of them turned it around and
started
back.
Moving. But most of us were
buried the other girls in the score.
I figured Blair and E would move that really well.
I think
Blair got caught up on the wheelbarrow, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think both E and Blair were like in the upper 80%. Like I think E got like 90% on that stage, and then Blair was like 86 or 88. We can check practice score. I'm not trying to quote that. But I know she was in like 76%. She got dominated on that. It just,
the fuck am I supposed to do? You
know? Yeah. For the guys, for the guys, it was I think I got over halfway back. So like down and then like over halfway back. But for the guys that were pulling it a long way, I think we were all within 10, 15 feet of each other. I heard before people, because like, what was my role with sleds? No sleds in lengths. Like it's there's always somebody complaining about their sled being harder to pull, whatever. And I heard that, but I heard that about my lane.
We were in the same lane.
I heard lane 2 was a shit lane to be in. I didn't feel like I was disadvantaged when I did it. Like looking at the ground, you could see the darker part that was harder to pull in. And like that vein of ground went through all of the lanes. And right before Jose went, I was like, hey man, as soon as you get past on the way back, I was like, as soon as you get past that dark dirt, it hits and it's easy again. And I was like, so like do whatever you can to get your sled past that dark dirt try to have a little left in the tank. And as soon as you feel the sled release a little bit, go. Just as hard as you can, because like in the last 10 seconds you're going to be able to make some space. And he pulled the hell out of that thing. God, he's strong. But I think he got me by 10, 15 feet, something like that. And then
that's awesome.
I was standing even with Zach's sled. So like he was a strap length ahead of me. I don't know how far that is, probably 10 feet, something like that. But it was a lot. People were shorting the turnaround and not respecting that. And I went like all the way around that.
Yeah, that's what the girls were saying in the heat before her. They came back and they're like, hey, pull it way further past than you think you need to, because otherwise you're going to get hung up.
Yeah. And I bumped
we didn't get there.
Like felt bad because on the way, like, you know, when you're attached to that sled and the strap and you start moving to the left, like you swing pretty hard. And like I swinged pretty hard right into Kyle. And I was like the one guy, the nicest freaking guy. And he was coming start his turn, and I was finishing my turn, and like we bumped right into each other.
If it was Hebner though, you'd have thrown the elbow with.
I'd have pushed him over.
Pushed him over.
He didn't even need to do that.
Just like push your foot out and trip him, and then just let it be it.
Actually, probably at that point in the competition, I could have broke both of his legs,
and he still would have
won. So, but yeah, that I mean, if you think about it, power output, like it's a good stage programmed for power output.
Yeah.
And I think that going back, like looking at the weekend as a whole, that the same person that is going to pull that sled really far is also going to be the person that throws the 35-pound kettlebell.
Yes.
Over.
Yes.
Is the same person that is going to throw the 175-pound bag around. So I think that them calling that out audible from 35 to 20 pounds on the kettlebell was a very good call, looking at the other stuff. Because like the power athlete, I am a more powerful athlete. Like that's the stuff that I do better at. And I didn't, even if they would have lowered that height on us or lowered the weight, I wouldn't have felt slighted over the weekend. Because I still had my events that were good for power output type people. So we didn't talk about the one where you picked up that big bag and put it over the big box.
The chipper.
Event. Yeah. Because I know I left one out. So that's I left that one out of my list. So my numbers may be a little bit staged. My numbers may be a little bit wrong. But I thought that was a really good stage. Me and Kyle, that their pistol target on that stage is historically a rifle target. So I just looked up and
started ripping it.
And I was like, man, this target is so big, and just like bam, 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 bam. And then Mara's like, dude, you're shooting the wrong target. And me and Kyle were shooting the wrong target. And so we switched over to anyway. But the bag was cool. Putting that big bag over the box was cool. The standard, I mean, I liked the big box because there was no cute way to get out. You just had to get over it. And I liked that about it.
It was funny. The girls were getting ready to go, and they were like, "Are we going to change the height of the box for the men?" And they were like, "Yeah, we're going to put it down." And then the first heat of the women goes, and they didn't change the height of the box. And the second heat goes, "Hey, I thought we were going to change the height." Somebody turned around and goes, "Too late. They already started. We're keeping it this way."
It was high.
Jenay's like, "I love that for me."
Yeah. And then another back bend workout to get it up and over.
But no, I thought it was a really good stage. The distance that we stress carry, I'm not great at stress carrying, but like it was fine.
Is it harder to put that on something and then roll it off something versus just put it up and over?
No, I didn't think so.
Is it any different?
It was another step for me because I wasn't like pushing it all the way over towards the end. I would get on top and then push it over. Okay. So slower rep cadence, but not by much.
Got it.
I was picking up the bag different than everybody else was. So it wasn't because my back kept blowing up and I didn't want to blow up my back into a stress carry. So I was picking it up like long ways, or I guess sideways, Yeah. And then basically cleaning it to this, like doing a clean to my like side of my bicep and just like bumping it up on the box.
Yeah.
And then pushing it over. It might've been a little bit harder to do it that way, but I didn't want to risk blowing because picking it up long ways, like on each side of the long bag, you have to squat a lot lower, and it's probably easier at the top. But I didn't want to squat that low. And
it's a lot of extra effort getting. It's like a snatch grip.
Yeah, it's like a snatch grip deadlift versus a conventional, pretty much deadlift. So I just wanted to be able to keep my torso more upright and not risk blowing my back up. Because if I would have blown my back up, I wouldn't have been able to carry the bag.
Sure.
So that may have been a little bit harder there at the beginning, but it was worth it to be able to carry the bag. So for me, at least, probably not the way I would suggest anybody else doing it. But I just did it so I didn't have to squat as low and risk blowing my back up. But I thought that was a good stage.
That one was one you could get more points at the end of that one, right?
Yeah. You did the burpee bag overs at the end. Yeah. But I see what y'all are getting at. It was a pick up the bag and put it over the bag something. I don't think that pushing it across was any harder. It was, if anything, it if
I see
anything,
what she says about slowing down the rep cadence, but does that make it any harder, or does that give you time to rest between
I think that
reps?
doing the burpee and then having to push the bag over, just it makes a rep a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And there's really no way to get too far ahead of somebody on it.
Sure.
Like, because it's just going to take a certain amount of time to get over and
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
So doing, and then having that as like the bonus at the end, it takes a certain amount of time to do a rep.
Mhm.
So like it's an enormous amount of effort to get 1 point ahead of somebody.
Sure.
On that. Like speed wise, you have to just be moving at a unsustainable pace
Mhm.
to try and push ahead of somebody. So
The way our schedule was laid out, we ended up doing a lot of sandbags back to back to back because we did the sandbag parallel step over event on Friday night or Friday morning, sorry. And then the ruck run. And then the next day we started out with the chipper. So it was sandbag over. And on Saturday we ended with the sandbag over on the rope climb. So it was a lot of that hinge motion in the first 2 days back to back to back, which as written in order, it wasn't the same way. So unfortunately for everyone on the back half like me, our backs really blew up on that.
I hope in the future they put the men's and women's elite back together.
I guess my guess is they did that for weight changes because the men's 40 plus and women's elite were using about the same amount of weight for everything.
Yeah.
Except for the farmer carry overhead stage was the only difference, I think.
Yeah. Just for logistics of weight change.
When I saw it, I was a little shocked by it, but I quickly realized that it was probably for logistics and kind of shrugged at it.
Agree.
And then the last stage, you did it. I did not do it.
Yeah. The final.
Dun, dun, dun.
The freestanding rifle was just really hard for me on that one.
You had a jacked up hand.
Yeah.
Love that.
My
for
hand
you.
was really jacked up. Of course.
Her hand was like a grapefruit at that point.
Yeah. I was on a lot of ibuprofen, and there's something special about competition that helps you forget enough to just get through the work. So
backstory. You're in your car and with Jake, and I got a phone call from Cody Carr, and it's okay, Jenay wants to talk to you. I was like, oh. And
Jenay's 100 yards from me. Why can't she just walk over here and talk to me?
First thing I went in mind is like, why doesn't Jenay just call me if she needs to talk? But so I went over there and you got tears in your eyes and holding your hand, and I looked at your hand, and the first thing that came to my mind is like, her hand is fucked. So bad. But like I can't say that to you. And so I was like, you're crying. I was like, so is crying helping your hand at all right now?
I think the first words out of your mouth were, Jenay, you're totally fine. It's going to be fine.
You're totally fine. You're wasting energy.
Yeah, you're wasting energy crying right now. You need to lock it up.
Yeah. And
that's what I needed to hear.
I know, because our mindset is very similar. And I don't think I could definitely have that mindset back, but I haven't had that mindset in a couple of years. But I know that I've had a broken foot and rhabdo, broken fingers, like all kinds of stuff during these competitions. And as soon as somebody says go, I don't feel it anymore. It's just time to go. And then when I start feeling it, because usually like 5 or 6 minutes into the event, this is what I wasn't going to tell you. You get like the raw pain comes back, and like, but for me, it makes me mad, and now I have something to focus on that hurts, that isn't focusing on how much I'm physically hurting from doing whatever I'm doing. Yeah. And I end up doing way better than I ever probably would have had I not been hurt. So that's what I was trying to get you to, was just for them to say go, so you could not feel pain for a minute or two.
Honestly, that's how it worked out.
Yeah. And then, but anyway, it was, watching you go through that stage is pretty cool, because like you were at a pretty big disadvantage with height and the way you're putting the bags over. I think you were the only one that thought of putting that bag on the box and then like standing on the box to put it. I think Crystal started doing it at the end. But you would stand on that wheelbarrow and then put the lighter bag over, and then you'd move the heavy bag on top of the box, stand up on top of the box, and then put it over, and then pull everything. And you were actually moving extremely efficient. And like, I think he only finished like half
1/2 length.
1.5 length ahead, something like, or
one full trip down.
Yeah. So
ahead.
She's just the wheelbarrow ahead of me.
I think she just did the wheelbarrow.
She just did the wheelbarrow.
So just like
that's what I mean. It's just that 1/2 section.
Yeah,
it was 1 point
a
on
half
this.
section. Yeah. So like the efficiency that you were moving in was super high. So you were able to do really well. But
yeah.
No, I was sitting there looking at your hand. Every time you came around at the back, I'd look at your hand. Like every time you came around, it was just a little bigger. I was like, oh, man.
It sucks to, like you said, I was thankful that I could forget about it when I was going for the most part. Like it was still there, but like that's just not your main focus when you're competing. But I think continuing to compete on it after I had heard it made it so much worse afterwards. But that day, like I'm not going to quit. I'm already there, you know, like you just gut it out. If I'm physically capable of holding on to something, I'm going to do it. So I paid for that.
Yeah.
Still paying for that.
That's right what, because like, you know, you got out of the car or whatever, and I told you to get that band, basically just like keep moving your hand. And I was like, cover it up, keep it warm. And she walked off. I told Jake, and we were talking, and I was like, her hand's fucked up. And I was like, I think it's broken. And I was like,
I said, I think it's broken too, but we're not going to tell her right now.
I was like, do not tell her that. And I was like, she probably knows in the back of her mind that it's really jacked up, but she doesn't need confirmation right now.
Right.
And then like keeping it covered up was just so you wouldn't look at it.
Yeah.
There was no reason to have
right.
No. Outside of like
Also-
ice and hot.
Also, Jared said, don't go ice bath. Keep it warm. Keep it moving. First place Jenay goes to ice bath.
It hurts so bad. It hurts so bad. I was like, this thing is going to swell like a grapefruit if I don't put it immediately in the ice bath. I know it.
So we did
ice bath a little bit.
ice bath and then heat 4 separate times.
Yeah.
Before the
next
big
event.
stage, before the bag over the big bar stage. And then you had you had the biathlon. And then you had the final.
Mm-hmm. I do think it helped keep the swelling down though to immediately go there.
Yes.
A little bit, but
It was mainly just not wanting you to waste mental energy on
right
stuff that may make a tiny little difference. Like just keep your head in the game, keep moving. Yeah. It's going to hurt and it's going to suck and you're going to be hurt no matter what. So just like keep.
Right.
That was why I told her before that big bag stage. I was like, hey, like this is you're going to pick it up and you're going to throw it and it might hurt. And you're just going to expect that. And we're going to move forward when that happens.
Yeah.
And
so it was 2020, 2021, 2020. I think it was in 2020. I had to run that around TRC with a broken foot, like 5 miles or whatever.
It's 5 miles.
Like every freaking step. And then I ended up getting rhabdo. And man, it sucked. That sucked bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the last stage was programmed really well from what I saw. Like, I
agree.
If like you figure out a way to efficiently move through everything, you moved all the weights really well. Like E and Blair, that I would say that kind of stage is like they're maybe not so much E, but Blair is taller. So like getting the bags over was definitely going to be easier for her. And then wheelbarrows are kind of a big person thing. Like it's just moving mass and, you know, for that. So being able to keep up with that with them, I think that your probably aerobic capacity towards, because it lasted so long, you're probably breathing a little bit better. I don't know, probably not breathing better than E. She's a freak of nature, but the efficiency that you were moving so efficient that you're able to stay in it, and then you're also very efficient on the line too. So
yeah,
your Aaron Hayes was watching your shooting through binoculars. And I kept
wish he wouldn't.
Yeah, I kept looking over and he would like holding his fingers up for Nikki, his wife, that was like right next to him, like how many misses you had.
Oh my gosh.
And I was just like,
don't watch.
God, Jenay.
Yeah, the freestanding rifle is just hard. I don't know I don't know, man. It was just, it wasn't there in that moment. But I knew that if I just did what I could do on fitness and shot my pistol really well, that would be enough. So at some point in that stage, after the first round went like to shit on the rifle specifically, I was like, all right, that's how that's going to go. I can take that hit and still have a great stage. Yeah. So I'm going to settle in and have fun and like enjoy this and get it done the best I can with that, knowing that I'm dropping a lot of rifle shots right now. And I got done with the stage. I walked over to Sandra because I knew she had binos, and I was like, don't look at my rifle target. It's okay. We don't have to talk about it. Like, I know it's terrible.
She goes, oh, honey.
Yeah, she literally was like, I know it was bad.
She dropped the honey on you.
It was like, oh, poor
funny.
Jenay.
Yeah. But the second half of that was really cool, and that we got to, like, I took my ear pro out and took my glasses off for that last set. And having everyone around and stuff, and having my ear pro out, I could literally hear every single thing. So every time anyone cheered for any one of us, it's so loud, it's so electric. Like, even if the cheers aren't for you, like, the energy in the space, like, still helps a lot. And of course I hear my name a bunch too as well. And like, that was a very cool moment of, like, during the suffering, once you get into a groove, you're not really thinking about the motions, you're just completing the task, so that it allows for mental space for you to process other things. So I was like hearing stuff in the crowd, and that was really unique. A lot of times in tactical games, you have your ear pro in still when you're working, so you don't hear it as loudly, but like, I could distinctly hear everyone. And that was an awesome moment to cap it off, and just had a lot of gratitude in that, where I was like, dang, this is really cool right now. Yeah, it's sweet that I get to do this.
I know last year I was in the lane behind anyway.
Yeah, you were behind me.
And then that last stage, I told you a couple times, like, you need to make sure to look around and enjoy
and
it.
Take it in. Yeah.
Because like, it can easily pass you, and then you don't remember any of it, and you didn't like take a second to look around, you know? So
yeah,
that's very important to do. So you at least have something to remember about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was cool. It was cool to see you, hanging there on the last one. I know your hand was hurt, and then finish off the weekend good. So
yeah.
Anyway,
that's cool.
Good effort.
It's good.
It was almost a 2-hour podcast. We did great.
Well, then Jose got hurt on the men's side. Like, I didn't really work out, so I don't have anything to say about it.
That was kind of, I remember me and you were like talking about that as it happened. We had no idea what was going on, because all of a sudden he just quit. He
was solidly in third, and more than
second?
Well, him and Austin were like going into the final. Him and Austin were 1 point separating each other from second and third.
And then what was
so they pretty much had that wrapped up, and Sal was like 25 or 30 points back.
Okay.
Not even. I think it was 18.
I think Sal was in fifth and Kurt was in fourth.
Oh, maybe that's true. I thought, maybe that's okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it was. And then didn't something happen?
I just remember
Kurt was on the end.
I just remember he was in like 5, but he's talking about what place he was in.
Yeah, it corresponded.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, Kurt was in 5. So,
okay, so he was in fifth.
Yeah, he was in fifth.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, that sucks for Jose. He worked his ass off all weekend, and he was solidly there. And anyway, he did really well. I judged him all weekend. He did awesome all weekend. And then
that's cool.
I think he thought he tore his pec, or maybe had.
Well, it was pec or shoulder.
Shoulder. I can't remember. I just know his wife was standing right next to me during the thing, and she said that he's got another competition coming up, and then work and all this. So he didn't want, like, he felt something and didn't want to risk it. So
it happened at the very beginning of a 10-minute section. That's a lot of time left.
That sucks.
It's a lot of time left to try to make that decision if I got to go through with this or not.
I can't imagine what it probably felt like to stand there and watch everybody else going, and you can't do it. Yeah,
that'd be rough.
It sucks.
But anyway, Jose, you did a great job.
Yeah, good job this weekend, or that weekend, Jose.
Sucks that you dropped out of third, but you did awesome all weekend. All right. What else?
That's it for me.
But anyway, to finish it off, this is also super critiquing, stuff, and like you could absolutely go and tear apart anything that I've ever programmed and Jake's ever programmed and whatever. So it's not a knock on anybody. It's just at the end you kind of go through and look at everything, and then figure it out. But then also make sure you critique your personal efforts. It's easy to blame a stage or whatever, and really, as long as the stage was the same for everybody had the same opportunity to either capitalize or mess it up. So
everybody can always play the game of, well, if I would have got 2 more hits on this stage, or if I would have done this on this stage, it would have been. this, that, or the other throughout the weekend, but then you realize there's like 5 or 6 stages like that, and it's like, well, maybe it goes back to training. Maybe it goes back to something else.
So anyway, whenever we do these where we're like tearing apart stages and all this other stuff, there is programming is one of 500 things that have to go right during the weekend from a perspective of like an administration perspective. And while it's extremely important, there are other things that are more important than programming, like safety.
Yes.
So anyway, that's what, like, we programmed things. We thought it was going to be awesome. And then after the first group went through, you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah.
Like, this
Audible.
Yeah. The good thing is like what we'd always say is like, well, once this division's done, we're going to change this.
Yes. It's like, well, how many heats of this left before we can change it?
And we'd run over there and tell the ROs like, hey, listen, after this group is done, that division is done. And then this is how we're going to do it for the rest of the weekend. So that's, which they called a good audible. I think
they did a couple audibles throughout the weekend. Like, didn't the men's weight change on a bag? It was supposed to be 250, but now 225 or something like that.
They said they don't know who changed it or whatever, but it ended up being 250.
Oh, it was. Okay.
Yeah. So they said they don't know how it changed in the document, but it was 250.
I got you.
They changed it back to 250. So, which 250 was the right weight. God, I went to go buy a truck and I test drove this thing. It was a piece of crap. And they took my
phone number,
driver's license.
Oh, yeah.
And then I forgot to get my driver's license back. And it's like, just mail it to me. I don't want to drive 30 minutes. So anyway, they're blowing up my phone right now. But the new motor in the Ford F-150s is a complete piece of shit, so don't buy one. Other than that,
probably leave that in the podcast.
Yeah. Other than that, overall, looking at the program like me and Zach were talking about, I think that the programming was good overall.
Yeah.
Like you can poke holes in anything,
Sure.
but I think that the weekend overall, the best people won.
Mm-hmm.
And weaknesses got exposed. Being short got exposed. Being tall got exposed. Being big got exposed. Getting small got exposed. Like if you had a weakness, it was put on Front Street. And
it was,
and that's the way it should be. Lady, you don't gotta call me 3 times. I know you have it. That got exposed. So yeah, I think the program is really good. Hopefully in years to come, there's more of a priority on action shooting, like making real action shooting stages.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that the importance of a female vetting stages is very important too. So hopefully those 2 changes are made in the future. But it's also availability, right? Like who are you going to call? We're all the best people are there competing. So who are you going to call the vet elite women's stages, right? Like, you'd almost have to find somebody that's almost like a CrossFit type athlete 4 times.
4 times. Wow.
4 times. I'm gonna. So like, you'd almost have to find like a CrossFit type athlete that isn't involved in the competition to come test the stages. Yeah. But then you don't know what kind of athlete you're getting. Like at least at the regionals, you have elite athletes. Most of the time, there's 1 or 2 elite athletes volunteering, so you can have them run the stage. And from the female side, and that's something that we struggled with sometimes, was finding the right, because like it's not 67% on everything.
Some of it needs to be 80%. Some of it needs to be closer to 50%.
Like more leg dominant stuff, women can do a higher percentage. Upper body dominant stuff, it's a lower percentage. Throwing a bag, it's a lower percentage.
I mean, y'all did a 45-pound bag to their 20 at the same height. That's less than 50%.
I think it was.
It was definitely
less full, so like 40 pounds, I think. To my understanding,
50%.
Sure.
Even.
Yeah,
I mean,
50%.
still 50% is 50%.
But to the same target,
definitely needed to be 50% at that scaling.
Yeah. So, but I think it's tough. And with that one, they saw what had happened in Idaho, and I think they had done it one more time before that. So like there's lessons that could have been learned before, but you almost have to have been in the situation that they're in to understand, like, it is so freaking hard to get one event that's really good. And
you got to get 12.
You got to get 12.
Yeah.
And
hard.
Things have to change because it's the championship. So yeah, you might have had times during the year that you can do a stage and be like, pull that stage out and be like, we're going to put this in the championship. But then you got to up it a little bit because it's a championship.
Then you got to revet it.
But then you got to revet it because changing something by 20 pounds can completely change the entire workout.
Yes.
So anyway, those are, it's impossible. Like even CrossFit's been doing it for 20 years. And sometimes they do programming. You're like, what? How could you not think of this? But then you also have to get a million other things right that weekend.
Yep.
So anyway, it's a very hard thing. Programming is extremely hard, especially when you have 300 other opinions, floating around. And then there are a significant amount of people that refuse to swallow the fact that they're not good at something and that it's going to be programming and it's going to be programmed and you just have to eat it. That's it. Like, you're going to suck at this because you're tall, or you're going to suck at this because you're short, but you know what? Like, you're on the periphery of the thing. So there's going to be things that you're good at and things that you're not good at. But there are a certain amount of people that refuse to sit there and accept, like, if I can't do it, nobody can do it. It's like, well, I see her doing it.
Right.
But if 75% of people can do it and you can't do it, you got a problem.
Sure.
So, anyway, all of that to say, none of this is negative against the tactical games. It's just like, it is so easy. I don't CrossFit. I don't, I own a gym and I'm a coach and all that, but like, I would get completely torn apart if I programmed a CrossFit event, right? And then, but I can also go and tear apart the CrossFit games.
Sure.
And, they've been doing it forever and they have way more funds and availability and testing people to come do it and all this other stuff. So, anyway, overall, good job, good stages. The best people won. That's what you're going for. So I think it was definitely good weekend and good competition. Very few problems from what I saw. Like, for whatever reason, I felt like the scoring on targets, hits and stuff was going smoother than normal. I had like 9 edits on my score.
I saw that.
I have no freaking idea. Like, I arbitrated one thing and that was that hit on that one. And I didn't even hit approve. So like, it never should have gone in with a score. And I had 9 edits. It was all, I think they put in a score for a stage I hadn't shot yet.
Yeah. Somebody else was scoring yours. And
then just like took it out, put it in, changed it, marked it as a reshoot. Like, all this other stuff. And I was just looking, like, every time I opened it, it was like 3 more edits. And I remember, what the hell is happening?
I remember Saturday night I showed Jenay your score, and I was like, "Homie's in the room this weekend. It's like 7 or 8 edits already."
Hey, and you don't want those.
Sunday morning, you were like, "Yeah, I haven't done this one time yet," and I was like, "Oh shoot, that's weird." There
were several people like, "Man, you're sure?" It's like, no, it's not me. Like, I did not. No.
Yeah, for those that don't realize, you don't want to be the guy that's editing scores 19 times in a match.
No. I was like, this is not me. Like, why do I have a 7 next to my name right now? Yeah. And I looked at it and I was like, reshoot, score change. At
that point, you just go, "Hey, Gil, can you delete this shooter and put in another shooter that's got my name in it and put my correct scores in, please?"
But anyway, I think everything went really, really good.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's the weekend.
All right, cool.
Yeah, cool.
All right, sounds good.